Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing for every Indian that should never be acceptable is insult and disrespect to Bharat and any of the symbols that represent Bharat, which of course includes the national flag. And we as a nation need to tell a nation which allows such vandals a free run that this will not be taken lying down. India needs answers. India wants answers, and India will ensure that there are answers to how, why, and how come such an act was allowed. Why was this allowed? Why has not there been immediate, strong, stringent action taken? And why is there a certain level of, it's all right, nonchalance about it, this kind of an attitude? It all started on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, after the Punjab Police initiated crackdown on Amritpal Singh. These Khalistani vandals went on a rampage across the world. Incidents have been reported from London in the United Kingdom, Canberra in Australia, and San Francisco in the US of A. The pro-Khalistani elements were out on streets and insulted the Indian flag. These Khalistani supporters targeted the Indian High Commission, consulates, and even protested outside the Australian Parliament with a demand to free Amritpal Singh, who still remains absconding. Let's break this down for you. Have a look at this entire chain of events. On Saturday, the Punjab Police launched a statewide crackdown on Amritpal Singh's Waris Punjab Day. 78 people arrested, 500 people detained on the first day of the crackdown. Amritpal still remains absconding. He is wanted in connection with several criminal cases against him, including spreading religious hatred. As of today, 112 people have been arrested so far by the Punjab Police. Amritpal was under radar after he took the Ajnala police station by storm on the 24th of February, but the crackdown triggered pro-Khalistani elements coming out of their burrows and holes across the world. First, what happened in London? On Sunday, these Khalistani vandals and goons held a protest outside the Indian High Commission in the United Kingdom. The protesters chanted pro-Khalistani slogans. The absence of adequate security from the British side, very clear. The goons were able to storm the premises of the High Commission, climb up the ramparts up to the first floor, and even lay a hand on the national flag. Doesn't your blood boil, ladies and gentlemen, when you see somebody who thinks they can get away with such an insult by laying their vile hands on our tricolour? As you can see the visuals on your screen, one of these vandals climbing up that balcony brought down the tricolour, pulled it down. It was retrieved by the Indian officials. There was a gentleman who stepped out of the balcony from internally, pulled up, raised the tricolour, folded it, gave it its due respect. But this person continues to stay on the balcony, waving this Khalistani flag and trying to attach it there. According to reports, several window panes were also smashed by the protesters. But where is the security that is supposed to be provided by the British? Where is the security? There's just one or two cops, and this is what they're standing today. The cops arrived later on the spot after the incident. The Metropolitan Police said 2 members of security staff sustained minor injuries and an investigation has been launched. It's nearly 24 hours, if not more. What action has been taken? No updates. The Foreign Office Minister, Tariq Ahmed, said, and I quote, "The UK government will always take the security of the Indian High Commission in London seriously." But why were they not there at the time of the protest? Soon after the situation came under control, the Indian High Commission in London responded with an even bigger, grander tricolour. As per reports, London police has arrested 1 man on suspicion of violent disorder. 1 man. But what about the crowds that gathered there? And this window smashed at the Indian High Commission? That is symbolic, ladies and gentlemen. The more you try and bring us down, the bigger and brighter and greater we will be as a nation. Phenomenal message by the Indian High Commission. The MEA also, soon after the incident, has condemned the incident. The MEA even summoned the United Kingdom's senior-most diplomat in India and lodged a strong protest. The MEA has also issued a statement that says explanation has been demanded for the complete absence of security. It's a basic obligation of the UK government under the Vienna Convention. Lack of security at the Indian diplomatic premises is unacceptable. Expect from the government of UK to immediately arrest those involved. stringent measures should be in place to prevent such incidents. After all of this, another protest is now being planned by this entity or organization that's banned in India called the Sikhs for Justice on the 22nd of March in London. The protest is to be led by designated extremists and terrorists Gurpatwant Pannu. SFJ is active in the US, Canada, Australia and also in the UK. The Indian government is monitoring the UK government's reaction. I'm going to check if we have... We're standing by for British parliamentarian Bob Blackman to join us any moment now. But these protests did not stop only with what happened with the desecration of the tricolour in the United Kingdom. It also happened in Australia. Thoughts coming in from Canberra, where pro-Khalistan elements gathered near the Australian Parliament in Canberra to protest against the Punjab Police's crackdown against Amritpal Singh and Warid Punjab. This is right amidst the rising number of attacks on temples and also the vandalism at the Indian Consulate in Brisbane. So plenty of developments are happening, and especially where intelligence reports time and again in the past have shown that these elements are operating on foreign soil and working towards a secessionist movement in India against the sovereignty of Bharat. And these are all nations with whom India is getting into massive trade engagements and also strategic security engagements. Meanwhile, a Khalistani referendum was held in Australia's Brisbane on the 19th, which was a complete failure. Only a few hundred from this community turned up to vote. But remember, lately, attacks on Hindu temples have been rising. Australian agencies have been accused of being soft on such elements who have been openly prejudiced in their actions against other communities. It's not just a matter of political ideology. We at all points here at CNN News 18 say these are nothing but fringe. They don't represent the entire community. There's no equating one with the other. But these vandals must be taught a lesson, because if they are not nipped in the bud, their activities are not nipped in the bud, they will only be emboldened, ladies and gentlemen. First the UK, then Australia, and now the western coast of the United States of America. Khalistan supporters attacked the Indian Consulate in San Francisco after officials removed the flag from the building. Even there in San Francisco, these elements tried to take down the Indian flag from the building of the High Commission of India. The supporters chanted pro-Khalistan slogans and tried to break doors and barge into the office. Now sources have informed CNN News 18 that India will take up the issue with the Americans too. Well, Jitat Rai Bhardwaj, editor of the Australia Today, is with us, and we also have Puneet Sahani, expert on evolution of Sikh identity and also this Khalistan terrorism. Namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. Greetings. It's very, very painful to watch what you proudly wear on your head, Puneet Sahani, for certain elements to lay their vile hands on. And Jitat Bhardwaj, despite repeated warnings to the Australians, these elements still are allowed to assemble and vandalize. Let's start with Australia. Why is this being allowed in Australia if Australian Prime Minister himself has made a commitment to Prime Minister Narendra Modi that this will not be allowed?
See, Anand, very clearly on ground, the local politicians are kind of hand in glove with these Khalistani elements. We have been telling this at least for several months now, that how in last year November's Victorian election, they were actively participating, handing over the leaflets for a number of politicians who are in power in federal government and in Victorian government. So they provided, they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for those fundraisers for these the politicians who are ministers in Anthony Albanese's federal government and Daniel Andrews' Victorian government. So I do expect that they will look around, they will not do anything about what is happening right now. The pictures which you are showing of Canberra, the protest in support of Amritpal Singh, this whole thing is organized by one of the Melbourne Gurdwara, which is Miri Piri Gurdwara. And you'll be very surprised to note that this Gurdwara gang was kind of hosted in Australian Parliament last month by one of the Labour Party, I beg your pardon, Labour Party MP from Victoria. And they were shown around, and this protest was also in a way facilitated. The permissions were provided with the help and support of the staff of this MP. And one of their senators, Australia's left-wing Green Party, their senator went there. You can simply see there are 17, 18 odd people. He went there and addressed these people. And this senator has a long history of Hindu phobia. He has a long history of hating
Jitatrai
India.
Bharadwaj, I'm not an Australian citizen. But I'm aware that Australia has absolute intolerance to any kind of racial abuse, any kind of activity that challenges the sovereignty of another nation, which is a friendly nation. In both these cases, these two clauses stand on this matter. Why is this still happening? If you are saying that there are politicians who are hand in glove, what is the Indian consulate there doing? What is the Indian embassy doing? Has it raised this strongly? And is the local police active than before?
See, after almost 7 weeks of what happened at Federation Square on 29th of January, now today they have released the photographs of people who were kind of responsible for that violence. It took them 7 weeks. However, the witness and the victims both have provided the almost 20 hours of video recording of what was happening on that incident. Victoria Police didn't act. Other police officers who are retired, we have talked to a number of experts. They were surprised why they are not releasing the, if they can't catch, they don't know who they are, release the photo. This is a normal procedure.
Right.
Every third day they do it. However, they didn't do it. So all of a sudden, police officers are not incompetent enough not to do it. There is pressure from the government not to act hard on these elements. That's why it is happening.
Then that is surprising. If you are sitting in Australia and it's nearly midnight, it's past midnight that you are sitting and joining us live on a broadcast in India at this point, and I thank you for that, Jitatrai Bharadwaj. But if you are sitting there and you are saying that there seems to be political patronage to these elements and they want this to happen, then that's sinister and that's dirty. That's dirty politics. India should not stand up, and India should not tolerate this. The Australian country, the Australians and Australia as a nation is benefiting hugely from the trade agreement that we have signed with them. And if they do not respect that by respecting our culture, our sovereignty, and they are okay with an entire community being shown in bad light by a handful of rogue elements, then that is unfortunate. And it also, the responsibility rests on the Consul General, the ambassador there, who's sitting there in Australia. Coming to you, Puneet Sani, thank you for your patience. How would you respond to these elements? The reports say they are a handful, there were 10s, there were 20, there were 30, but they seem to be getting emboldened. Is it a free run for anybody who wants to charge at any consulate across the world, especially in the US now? What happened in San Francisco?
Jama Bharti. So thank you. I thought, I need some time, because I'm from history. So I'll just give you a perspective, maybe like now this is an issue. But as somebody who has studied the history, like it's not surprising. I'll tell you, like if you actually go through the archives, what the Khalistanis in Canada used to do, you're saying they have desecrated the flag. Do you know they used to enter the embassy? Please watch my words, what I'm saying. They used to enter the consulate and the embassies and burn the Indian tricolor on 26 January or Independence Day. This is what they, now this will like blow your mind. But I have just seen this all things. Do you know, like first of all, I think this was before Blue Star. So there is a name you would never hear. His name is Fauja Singh Bains. So Fauja Singh Bains, like I think in 1983 or something, he basically shot bullets in Toronto, outside the consulate. And thankfully or sadly, one of the bullets hit the policeman. That's why he was thrown into prison. And the Khalistani, when he released, they opened him a gas station or something like this. So this Khalistanis are terrorists, like this is like surprising to you, but I'm an old hand at this. Like I'm young, but I'm an old hand. I've studied the history. This is nothing very like they will not do. They are politicians. And it's not like, this is bad or you look at Mamta Banerjee. Mamta Banerjee was against this Bangladeshi infiltrators. But when they were started voting for her, she is the biggest, supporter of them. So politicians are politicians. What is the locus of responsibility is what you can do. So what the Indian government can do is inflict cost on them. So who are doing this? First, these are the Khalistani. You find them, they are saying, earlier they used to put in a blacklist. Blacklist means you can't enter India. You have to increase the deterrent. You find these people and put them no-fly list. No-fly list means that you can't cross the Indian airspace. So if you do this on people who in Australia, do you know what will be the cost? Because if they have to go to Europe or America, they have to pass by India. They will not be able to travel anywhere. So this is what the Indian government has. You don't have to plead this to anyone. And then, of course, you inflict the cost. We are going to degrade the diplomatic relation. Okay. Because when we do trade, we also benefit from them. But that is the second step.
Right.
You do one deterrent. I've been explaining this for 2 years. Like you saw what they did. Like they were like thumping their thighs. We will do this. And you saw when police acted, pulls and they started crying like this. Last 2 years. Do you see any fear in me? I know Khalistanis like this. These are the biggest cowards. You have put them on your head because you don't act. You do little bit. You put 5 people on this no-fly list. You see all of them start behaving. I think, I have a lot of respect for Modi ji, but he just wants to show I have a lot of respect for Guru. He has become soft on Khalistanis. He has shown some respect. Our entire respect has gone down the country when people are seeing, these people in turbans, acting like animals. So this is my perspective. It may not please a lot of people, but what I say is based on facts, and you can verify what I'm saying.
No, I respect your being so candid about the fact that you can respect the gurus, but if you're not going to respect, if you're not going to crack down on those people who are bringing bad name to the entire community, how are you doing yeoman service? And you ask a very fair question of the Prime Minister, who has huge respect for the Sikh community. But that respect to the Sikh community cannot be limited only to the gurus. It has to also ensure that these people wearing those turbans cannot bring a bad name to the entire community. You cannot have a situation where these elements, these goons can be identified as Sikhs. That's wrong. They are not. And that's something, an example has to be made out of them, and it has to stand out. Jitat Rai Bharadwaj and Puneet, I request you to just stay with me because I think we have Lord Blackman joining us live. He's a little delayed, but he's with us now. So I'm going to go and ask him go across to him straight away. Mr. Bob Blackman, namaste. This is Anand Narsimhan here. We speak again. You were in Bharat the last time when we spoke.
Indeed.
Now you are in the UK, and what's happened is tragic. What's your first thoughts on what's happened over the weekend?
Well, my first thoughts are obviously for the 2 security guards that were injured during the unprovoked attack on the High Commission. My understanding is that one individual has been arrested and is still in custody, and the police are looking through the evidence to see if others should be charged with this vandalism on the High Commission. And the very brave people in the High Commission who put up the much bigger flag of India as a result are to be praised and welcomed. I will be seeing tonight, I will see the High Commissioner, the Indian High Commissioner in the UK Parliament. I've already expressed my sympathy to him and his staff over this attack. Clearly, this is not the first time that the High Commission has been attacked in London. What we do need to do is to actually stamp down on this very, very hard. I shall certainly be taking this up with Suella Braverman, who is our Home Secretary. When Priti Patel was Home Secretary, we had to take up the previous attack. And there has to be an immediate question, which you will no doubt have from the various different contributors here. This is a series of coordinated attacks on Indian embassies around the world. It is clearly a conspiracy. It's clearly coordinated. and it's clearly deliberately aimed to cause trouble. Now, the security forces in the UK have questions to answer about what they knew about this conspiracy and why there was no police presence outside the High Commission when this attack took place. Because if they knew this was going on, there should have been police presence to make sure the sort of things that are appearing on our screens now didn't happen. The police arrived, as I understand it, after the attack had taken place, and obviously sought to arrest the individuals that were responsible, but many of them had left the scene by the time the police arrived. And frankly, in this day and age, we shouldn't have this going on in the streets of London. It's an absolute outrage. We've had Khalistani demonstrations before. We've had, when Prime Minister Modi visited London before, we had Khalistanis pulling down the Indian flag in Westminster Square and burning it in front of police officers. I've said that this is a direct affront to India, one of our closest friends and allies, and we should not allow or tolerate that sort of behaviour. We have a strong belief that peaceful demonstrations are permitted, but vandalism and attacks like this are most certainly not. And so we then have to look at who are the people behind this, who are the people behind this conspiracy. We know that there's been a number of incidents where people have been injured. We do know where literally terrorism has taken place. And if terrorism is taking place, then we have to review whether such organisations can act legally, either in our country or in other countries around the world. We need to coordinate our activities together with our friends and allies to put a stamp on this straight away. Otherwise, these people will get emboldened and they'll do something far worse. So my answer to them is, as I think you've been debating, the reality is that India is a secular country where everyone is valued regardless of their religion or background, and therefore there is no excuse for these vandals. There's no excuse for these people to be committing these acts of vandalism, and straight away we want firm action to stamp them out.
Lord Blackman, do you believe these people have political patronage? Are there elements within the British polity who are backing them?
Well, there's clearly there must be some people from within the political establishment that give them some sort of degree of succour. The first thing I would say to those people is, if they're involved in mainstream politics, think again. This behaviour is just unacceptable in the most extreme way, and those people should dissociate themselves from the Khalistanis. They should make clear that nothing like this should be going on. I'm very clear that this very small minority of people need to be prevented from carrying out these sort of activities and their illegitimate aims disrupted.
Lord Blackman, Gurpatwant Panun is listed as a terrorist by India. His organization has been put on the banned outfit list because it carries out secessionist activities against India. They are operating on UK soil and they're calling for a referendum meet on the 22nd of March. Should the UK authorities crack down or will they allow it? What's under the definition of democracy? Is this allowed? And I underline this question with, if India were to allow secessionist elements from different parts of the UK to carry out activities in India and target the UK consulate here, will there be a quid pro quo or will the reaction be the same?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, we should be treating these attacks on the Indian High Commission in London in the same way as we would if the British High Commission was attacked in Delhi. And the reality is that both would be absolutely unacceptable. It's one thing for someone to come along and wave a banner and protest peacefully. It's quite another for them to literally try and burgle the High Commission, smash windows, attempt to steal the flag, and obviously vandalise the High Commission, and indeed, of course, injure security guards who are just doing their job of trying to protect the building and the staff within the building. The fact that this took place on a Sunday, obviously, that there's only a skeleton staff operating on a Sunday, and therefore was obviously prone to interaction. Now, in terms of the people behind this, I take a strong view that if our friends and allies in India have prescribed an organisation, then we should then be acting in concert with our Indian friends and allies in saying, if they're prescribed in India, they should be prescribed in this country. And I will certainly, as I say, be discussing with the High Commissioner what we can do to persuade our Home Secretary and our security forces to say, look, this is an organisation that deserves to be prescribed, which, by the way, if that happens, it will be illegal in this country to be a member of it, to support it, to wave the flags, as we've seen, and to act in any shape or form to support that organisation. That, to me, has to be the next step, given what we've seen on Sunday. Sometimes, if this was an isolated incident and only happened in London, then we could say, well, these things happen. But it's not. This is happening around the world. Clearly a coordinated attempt to disrupt a proceeding and force India to do something that clearly the Indian government don't want to do and frankly shouldn't do anyway. And I condemn, as I said, utterly condemn the actions of those people who cause trouble outside the High Commission, and my support and 100% support for India, or the High Commission, and all the staff that work in the High Commission, because they do a brilliant job on behalf of not only India, but the Indian diaspora in this country. And what I don't want to see, and this is very clear, is the peaceful Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom suffering either attacks or getting involved in violence as a result of these type of activities, because it's an outrage when most people just want to get on with their lives and act accordingly.
Lord Blackman, my final question to you, and this concerns every British citizen, because Britain is also a vibrant democracy where there is a huge amount of religious freedom. Now, one of the concerns is it's a handful of people, maybe maximum 20 of those who are standing there, but they're all wearing turbans. Now, this is very easy for it to spill over into all those who reject this movement and be branded and painted in the same manner. To see every Sikh being called a Khalistani is the biggest insult and perhaps the biggest disservice to the community. Now, that's the danger if these elements are allowed to perpetrate and they're allowed to continue with their activities. Will you try and make the British establishment aware of this concern? Because Britain has a huge number of Sikhs who have outrightly rejected this for years and years.
Absolutely. And the overwhelming majority of Sikh population in the United Kingdom are peaceful, law-abiding people who want to get on with their lives, are integrating in our society and don't get involved in Indian politics at all. They've got their own lives to lead. And the reality is that, as you say, it's a very small minority, and we need to make sure that people understand it's a small minority. And the worst aspect, the worst thing possible would be Sikhs to be targeted with abuse or physical attacks or anything else as a result of people thinking, all Sikhs are Khalistanis, because clearly they are not. There's a very small group of individuals who are behind this, and they're out to cause as much trouble as they possibly can. And often, when you've got small groups like this, they try and make a big noise about things in order to stir up trouble, and then try and get a reaction against all the people, for example, all the Sikhs in this country. And my message to all of our friends in the Sikh community is carry on rejecting these people, be outright and say you reject them and that you want nothing to do with them whatsoever, because that's the easiest way of ensuring that we can isolate these people and prevent them from either causing further disruption or causing damage to the community relations between the Sikh community and other communities in this country. And it's grossly unfair on those people. But I know many Sikh families who are horrified by what has happened at the Indian High Commission. And if they could, I'm no doubt they'd be down there demonstrating their support for India as opposed to demonstrating with these yellow flags supporting this separatist argument for Khalistan, which frankly has got no mileage whatsoever. I can't see that the Indian government would ever allow such a referendum or plebiscite to take place. Why should they? The vast majority of people don't support it, and they wouldn't support it.
Right.
Just because people, a very small group of people call for it, doesn't make it viable.
Lord Blackman, you've got considerable clout and a voice in the British Parliament, and we hope you put this case forward just as strongly as you've put forward here. You have taken the right stand, and I thank you very much.
My pleasure, and I look forward to helping and assisting India in any way, shape or form that I can. Jai Hind.
Namaste. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.